All right. I'll also be sharing screen with everyone just to make sure that, um, you have some visual support here during the session. So welcome everyone once again. My name is Mirto Lalakos. I'm a principal here at VC Lab. And for those of you who don't know VC Lab, we run the globally kind of largest accelerator program for people launching venture capital funds called VC Lab. And we do this kind of under the Decile Group umbrella. So if you look at my screen, it's kind of VC Lab by Decile Group. Decile Group's mission is to democratize access to venture capital. We want to make it easier and faster for people to start funds around the world if they want to create impact and kind of create a better future. So we do this in several ways. We have the programs arm, so that's where kind of things like VC Lab fall under, which is, the accelerator for new and emerging managers, where we basically accelerate your launching of your new VC firm. We also work with people on Fund 2 and Fund 3, for example. So still in that category of emerging managers to launch their fund on kind of like a sidetrack program of VC Lab 2. And yeah, people who are launching funds and come onto our program, they will launch funds kind of in record time. So we've seen people kind of get to a first close um, anywhere between kind of 3 months and 5 months, which is extremely fast. Usually, kind of if you start a fund on your own, there's a lot of trial and error that goes into it. A lot of kind of hacks that you can use to save a lot of time with kind of vendors, for example, and stuff like that. And so in the program, we just guide you through kind of every step you need to take in the order in which you need to take it in order to launch a fund in kind of record time. So that's what we're all about at VC Lab. But Decel Group, kind of going back to what our company as a whole does, we also kind of created Decel Hub, which is the leading software for managers who to kind of fundraise and scale their venture capital firm. There's so much AI underpinning a lot of the features and the tools that we've built for these fund managers. And so you're literally kind of, if you're on this hub, you're an AI venture capital investor in a lot of ways because it just like we use AI just to help you accelerate so many different aspects of launching and running a fund, which is crazy. But once you're in the program, you get access to that for free. We also have a fund of funds called Decel Capital, for example. We invest in the top managers to come out of each program. And we also have what we call Decel Partners, where it's a whole kind of operation where we help, the most kind of capable new and emerging managers to form their fund and then run their back office in continuity. But we take a very holistic approach. So we'll not only do kind of like the fund formation and fund back office, we'll help you find and assess deals. We will help you staff your firm with different venture partners and stuff like that, or associates, right? So we're really kind of come in as a partner. So anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about Decel Group. Today, we will be focusing on VC Lab. So this is, once again, the accelerator for people launching VC firms. One thing I do want to mention that's going to be really important and kind of put this into context is that VC Lab is a closing program. It's not a learning program, right? So if you're just wanting to kind of learn about venture capital because you want to, maybe you're thinking of maybe at some point you're going to launch a fund, or you want to career switch and kind of work in venture capital, we actually have a program just for you. It's called Venture Institute. And Domenica, maybe we can put the link to Venture Institute in the chat for people who are interested to learn about VC. VC Lab is a closing program. So it's for folks out there who are launching their venture capital fund now. We help you get to that first close, which is the point at which you have called in capital from the limited partners that we help you to kind of, kind of close during the program. And you become an operational VC fund. You can start deploying capital and making investments. So this is what VC Lab is all about. We help you get there once again in record time. So once again, I said this before, but we want today to be an interactive session. So I do have a bit of a presentation, prepared for you guys, but you can put your questions in the chat. So I'll be kind of going in and checking the questions, ideally at the end, unless you have kind of something pressing on something that I'm showing right now, where you can raise your hand and, I'll kind of call on you and you can ask your question live. Otherwise, I will kind of wait until the end. But also, it's an opportunity for you to kind of get live feedback on your application. Um, both of these things are an option today, and hopefully, a lot of you guys will volunteer, and we'll try to get through as many applications as possible. So, yeah, with that, let's start off with kind of the application stages. So obviously today our goal is to make sure that you kind of know what it takes to apply to the program. What does the process look like? And also, what do we look for when we are looking at your applications and scoring them and making decisions as to which managers are going to be in the program or not, right? So I'm going to start off by kind of showing you the application stages. So we've got the first stage, which is an online application. We're going to be spending a lot of time on this online application because it's you know we base our kind of the biggest part and weight that goes into whether you're going to get on the program or not is based on the online application. So we're going to go through this in detail. Then you may or may not get an interview. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about this, but it is just in most cases just the kind of a confirmation step. I would say out of everyone who goes to interview, you would probably like 70% of you guys would kind of be accepted into the cohort. The online application, however, I would say maybe I don't know, I want to say maybe 30% of all applicants get into the program. So it is, quite competitive. Um, and yeah, we can come back to that later. So yeah, second stage, maybe an interview. And third stage is the Mansarius Oath. Again, we will be coming back to this. So let's start with the online application here. So I want to very quickly just show you what we see from our side on a demo account. So let me just switch screens here very quickly and flip over to the application page. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this. This is a demo account. And you guys will be, there's kind of a portal where you fill in the application. And maybe Domenica, let's send everyone a link here to apply to VC Lab. And guys, you can just, kind of follow the steps in order for you guys to see kind of all the questions that are asked. But this is kind of what we see on our side, right? So once again, demo account. We've got the name, we've got your age, and then the first thing that we see is kind of your LinkedIn. So we will be asking you to kind of link to your LinkedIn. I will come back to this. We've got a section about your background, your investment thesis, your need. So this is where you're going to be answering the question, what is it that you're hoping to get out of VC Lab? There's a section for your video and kind of a source and recommendation. And so when we kind of look at everyone's application, we have this one pager where we have all the key information that we're really interested in on one page. And we also have these buttons here that allow us to score each one of these main sections of the application, right? So we will be going kind of through each of these sections in a lot of detail today, and I'm going to show you exactly how we score. So you're really kind of getting, the blueprint about how we make these decisions at BC Lab. We want to be extra transparent and for you guys to know exactly what goes into our thinking. So let's start with the LinkedIn network. So what we're going to do is we're going to open, your LinkedIn. I will just open my LinkedIn for this so you guys can have a look. So let's say Mirto Lalikos applied to VC Lab, and I open this up, and what I do as someone kind of scoring your application is that I will go here, and I'm actually just going to start out by looking at your number of followers. And the reason why we look at the number of followers is because it's kind of the best proxy to how big your network is, which is an indication of how likely you are to be successful in A, fundraising, and B, getting an adequate number of deal flow and kind of amount and quality of deal flow, I guess, to from kind of founders when you raise the fund and you're going to start to deploy into startups. So we know this is obviously not perfect, but for you to be able to launch a venture capital firm, it is very much a relationship business. And it starts out, when you're launching a VC fund, one of the first things that you're going to be doing is talking to limited partners. And you're going to be very quickly just be thrown into the wilderness with kind of basic elements of your fund, like just the thesis, and we're going to get to the thesis in just a moment. And you're going to start talking to your first degree network. These are people that you went, for example, you may have gone to school with them, you may have worked with them in the past, et cetera, et cetera. And you're going to be kind of talking to all these individuals, looking for feedback on your thesis. And the people that, and you're going to be iterating on your thesis, but again, this comes from kind of a network play. And they're going to be giving you feedback on your thesis. You're going to be iterating on your thesis. And what's going to start happening is that you will start to get people who are really interested in kind of being involved in the fund and who will convert into being LPs into the fund, right? So we look at your LinkedIn network size. So here, this applicant has 16,000 followers, and this would get a 5. So, but the bar is much lower, guys. So we will score you 1 to 5 with no threes, by the way, on each one of these sections. We don't have a 3 because we don't want to be neutral in our scoring. We want to take kind of a point of view on whether this is kind of more on the good side or less on the good side. So there's no 3. So 1 to 5 with no threes. In this case, I'll put a 5, but if you have less than 1,000 followers, then you'd get a 1. If you have over 1,000 followers, you get a 2. If you have over 2,000 followers, you get a 4. If you have over 5,000 followers, you have a 5. So here, I'm just kind of saying this person seems to be very well connected. They're likely to have a lot of LPs in their network and also have kind of a decent amount of deal flow from investors and startups, sorry, to invest in once the fund is closed. So there we go. This LinkedIn gets a 5. For background, and I'm actually gonna flip back over to the presentation because I want to give you some real examples here. So let's go like this. So background. Let me give you some examples. So you will be asked kind of what is your background and what's kind of leading you to want to start this fund. So some of you may kind of take a very, approach where you may say, I'm a former manager of the fund of funds in Romania. I have 25 years of experience in banking and VC industry. So this would get a 2 out of 5, right? There's not a lot of information here. Um, you've been very kind of modest on the word count. I have 25 years of experience in banking and VC industries. What does VC industries really mean? Also, you may have kind of X number of years of experience in a certain sector, but what did you actually achieve during those years? It's not really clear, right? It's not clear that why this person wants to start a VC fund. So this would get a 2. There's another one here. In the past, I've built a business, failed a startup, and worked at a large company like Times Internet and Amazon. My role at Times Internet's investment arm is what got me deeply interested in venture, where I very closely saw ideas taking shape into large companies. So this is still kind of a 2. It's much better than the first one. There's a little bit more information, but and I'm kind of starting to understand why this person wants to start a VC fund, but not something about what would set them apart as an investor, right? So one thing I do kind of want to pause and say is that, we get there's huge amounts of interest in the market today of people wanting to start a VC fund. When I say huge, I mean we get for every single cohort we run approximately 4 cohorts a year. We get usually north of 3,000 applications in each cohort. These come from all over the world. And we, are a global program and we're able to help new and emerging managers globally. However, the success rate, so just kind of looking at kind of going from the number of applications, if you funnel that through to how many we actually accept on the program, and then how many of those are able to actually uh, keep up with the performance metrics that we look at during the program, you only have at the end and are able to kind of graduate only between 2 and 4% of all the applicants um, actually complete the program. Also, I do want to say that we're kind of at a stage where we do see and help accelerate at least half of the world's kind of new and emerging VC funds at the moment. So we really have a very good view of kind of what the market demand for this is. And currently it's huge. So, every quarter about 3,000 people want to start new and emerging funds. So the success rate, as I just said, is very, very low. It's very difficult. It's not uh it's not something that you can just wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm really passionate about startups, and so I'm going to start a VC fund, right? No, you need to have kind of a unique kind of advantage in the space where you want to launch a fund that will make limited partners, this is your starting point, say, yeah, not only, I kind of hear you, you want to start a fund in this space. I see that there's a massive opportunity here, and I understand why you're the best person to go after this investment opportunity and why you're uniquely qualified to actually, take my money, invested in startups in your network, and actually create returns, right? This is what you need to achieve when you're starting a VC firm. It's to convince LPs, right? So, and when we look at these applications, we're looking at it from an LP's perspective, right? So this kind of going back to this background. So in the past, I've built business, failed a startup, and worked at large companies. I've got 25 years of experience. Yeah, I've got experience kind of starting a company, failing a company, working at large companies. But we don't really know what you've achieved and if you were successful in these endeavors, right? Here, I included an example of a background kind of statement, which got a 5. So we really like this. So here I'm based in Palo Alto, California. In the past, I co-founded and led 2 startups, 2 acquisitions. So already I know not only did you start a company like this person here, you actually exited them, right? Or you actually sold these companies, which is a measure of success. Taught entrepreneurship at Stanford and advised hundreds of early stage founders through programs like StartX, Startup Garage, and Ecopreneurship. So here I know you probably have deal flow. You're someone who's able to work with these startup companies and actually mentor them and, potentially get them to a higher valuation, maybe. I've worked at Meta. I led the launch of our AI-powered smart glasses. I currently serve as venture partner at the Inception Studio. You've got kind of some VC experience, nonprofit AI accelerator. What led me to VC is a passion for championing underdogs. So we kind of get a sense here of this person's values and kind of why they're interested in doing this as well. So I know they've been successful in the past. I know why they've got a lot of passion for starting this fund, which is something that we love at VC Lab. This is why we're doing this, guys. It's to kind of create a better future. So we'll get to that later too. But I love supporting talented mission-driven entrepreneurs while building health. Da, 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 da. So uh, this gets a 5 because they've not only been able to tell us what they've done in the past, they told us what they've achieved in the past, and it's all kind of very relevant. It sounds like someone who, when they, again, I'm looking at this from a limited partners perspective, it sounds like they've got great access to deals, they've got a community of founders, they're a mentor, they've kind of worked with these companies before. Also, they're super, super passionate about this and actually are doing this from kind of a mission. There's kind of some sort of mission and very strong ethics here. And yeah, and that would get an LP excited, right? It's kind of a winning combination. So that would get a 5. Um, so next up on the application was that thesis box, right? So let's kind of talk about thesis a little bit. Your thesis is a 1-sentence statement that looks like this. This is kind of your thesis template, which tells limited partners, not founders, not your website or anything like that. You're not allowed to have a website, by the way. That would be breaking general solicitation rules. So, Domenica, can you please put the link to general solicitation in the chat, guys? For anyone, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but if you are launching a new VC fund, you are not allowed to talk about it publicly. So this thesis statement is just for you and the potential limited partners that you're talking to. If you put this on LinkedIn or anything like that, you may kind of face serious consequences from the regulators in your country. There's kind of general solicitation rules almost everywhere globally. Anyway, so this statement is for VCs, for VCs to tell LPs what they're going to be investing in and why they're uniquely qualified to invest in that sector and create strong returns, right? So fund name, I'm going to go through kind of the different elements here. So fund name, here it could be VC Lab Ventures, for example, is launching a uh, dollar million stage fund. Okay, so let's kind of talk about these elements. So here you are going to put your fund size. One thing that we look at is that you have a reasonable fund size. So again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but when you are launching a fund, you do not want to, your goal is not to create a massive fund one. Your goal is to create a very kind of realistic and manageable fund one that you're going to be able to raise quickly, to deploy quickly, and to start seeing markups quickly in order to go back out to market and raise fund two. And fund two, you're kind of going to do the same. And fund two's role is to get you to fund three. And then suddenly you start kind of stacking up your funds. And investor confidence, right? So when you're a new manager, it's kind of the worst place to be as kind of someone starting out in VC. No one wants to no LPs want to take a risk on you. Venture capital is already a risky asset class. So really the only LPs that are going to be coming into your fund are people you know, right? Um, and have confidence in you and are kind of like, yeah, I know, Emily, I worked with her in the past. She had incredible kind of work drive. She was super passionate. She's someone that really gets along with people. She was running this entire community of startups, and there were a lot of founders who kind of, you know, became unicorns, right? You kind of need to have kind of some point of view. And it's only really, at least for your first close, you need to you're going to raise that from, your first degree connections, maybe second degree connections, right? So people who know the people that you know. But there's only a limited pool of that. of those types of connections that you will have, and they're likely going to be able to get you to maybe like a $10 million fund max if you're a new manager. If you raise your fund size to something a lot larger. So we see a lot of applications saying, oh, I'm going to launch $100 million fund. This is very unrealistic because in order to raise $100 million fund, you need a lot of bigger LPs to invest in your fund. And this is nearly impossible because a lot of these larger institutional LPs, most of them, first of all, are prevented by charter from investing in new and emerging managers who don't have a track record. And second of all, they will take such a long time. So you're going to be kind of trying to convince these people that you're, a great person to start this VC fund, but they don't really know you. They haven't worked with you before. You don't have a track record. So it's a very, very, very difficult pitch, nearly impossible, right? Unless you go to kind of these government funds, there you may get some money as a new manager, but again, they're gonna take a long time to come in, and then you'll have all these sort of kind of like restrictions that will prevent you from being able to kind of invest in the best deals. From you'll have to do a ton of reporting all the time, so they will slow you down. And our goal is to really kind of help you guys create a scalable, kind of top-notch venture capital fund, the kind of Lightspeed Ventures of the future type of fund, not just kind of a one-off big fund that took forever to raise and then you kind of have all this reporting to do, right? No, VC is kind of a speed sector, right? We want you to be doing fast, and basically your fund one is like your MVP. It's like your little fund up to $10 million approximately, depending on where you are in the world, the figure might change, but something that you're going to be able to raise fast, deploy fast, get markups fast on this. And then for fund two, you're going to be able to go to all of these institutional investors, show them your track record, and then suddenly you can have this conversation, right? You can get a lot bigger LPs in. So that's fund stage size. Make sure you put it kind of on the more realistic end. Stage, here you have you're gonna put in, if you're investing at pre-seed or seed or maybe kind of at an angel uh kind of fund. This is important because limited partners, once again, they've got specific allocation for different stages. And so when you're bringing your thesis to them, you want to say, you want to clearly tell them my fund is investing at this stage, so at pre-seed, for example, and they need to be able to easily place you into an allocation bucket. So here you want to be really clear about your stage. Is it pre-seed? Is it seed? Don't put early stage, right? Early stage could be anything from friends and family to series D, E, whatever, depending on who you speak at, right? So pick a stage, and then venture capital fund in city. Here you want to tell the LP where you are based, not where the fund is going to be domiciled or anything like that, where you are based, to back geography and sector. So here you're putting kind of which geography your investments will cover. So if you're, let's say you're in Denver, but you're investing in the US, right? Or you're in London and you're investing in the UK or Europe, something like this, right? And sector, and here, okay, guys, for sector, you need to be able to kind of express your sector in maybe like 2 to 3 words. Don't put a whole kind of sentence about the very kind of specific thing that you've thought about investing in. No, it needs to be super clear. It needs to be something that LPs will look at and easily understand. So fintech or silver tech or, easy things. B2B SaaS, right? 2 words. There you go. Sector, leveraging the partner's secret sauce. So secret sauce is probably the most important aspect of the thesis. And we could spend a whole hour actually talking about the secret sauce, but this is basically where you tell us why you're uniquely qualified to go after the thesis and the sector of focus of the fund, right? So if you're a $10 million pre-seed stage venture fund in Palo Alto to back US climate tech companies, then in the secret sauce, I want to know about why you are the best person to go after pre-seed US climate tech companies. So, and here you want to quantify this, by the way, as much as possible and kind of say, leveraging the partners. Maybe I've invested in pre-seed climate tech US companies in the past, and I have a track record and I've got some markups on my kind of angel investments. So here I can say leveraging the partners, angel, 10 angel investments in this space, 3 of which have already been marked up 2x, for example, right? So you want to be specific. It needs to be relevant to climate tech, pre-seed climate tech in the US, and it needs to be kind of quantifiable, right? So this is kind of secret sauce. If you have any questions about this, by the way, let me know. So I'm going to give you a few thesis examples. So someone, and we've obviously kind of taken out any sensitive information, but these are kind of actual things that people submitted in their application form. So someone put food and agri-tech. This gets a 1 because, you've got a whole kind of template here. And Domenica, if we can also put the thesis post in the chat for everyone to kind of look at it. So there's a nice little template for you guys to follow. So this person didn't even follow the template, so that gets a 1. Here we have one that's a little bit longer. It looks like it's following the template. It says Main Capital Fund 1 is launching a 40 million early stage venture fund in Silicon Valley, US, to back Latam, MENA, and Oceania. Early stage technology startups led by diverse founders. So it's kind of following the template, but there's a few problems with it. First of all, 40 million early stage venture fund. Let's start there. 40 million is very large. I know this person is going to be trying to fundraise for years and years to come. It's going to be really difficult. They'll be kind of knocking on all these doors. They'll be getting rejected by LPs. Then they're going to figure out, oh, I need to make my fund size smaller. So they're going to make their fund size smaller, and they're going to tell anyone who did, maybe some friends and family did come into the fund, they'll be like, oh, I did pitch you a $40 million fund, but now I'm actually going to do it 10 million because why? Because, oh, I wasn't able to kind of raise from LPs and everyone turned me down. And I mean, this is not inspiring confidence to LPs, right? You want to start at something realistic that you can actually achieve, right? You don't want to be going back to any LPs that you managed to convince to come into your fund and be like, I wasn't able to I was actually too optimistic about my fund size. I'm going to downscale now. And you know what I mean? It's just not a good look. Early stage, early stage doesn't really mean anything. Is it pre-seed? Is it seed? As an investor, I'm like, oh, is it like early stage, like what, like series B, like, what? No. So be specific about the stage. Venture fund, Silicon Valley, that's great. US to back the town, and Oceania. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like, whoa, this person is in Silicon Valley, but they want to invest basically globally. How are they going to do this? This is kind of a little bit unfocused. And then early stage again, not very specific. Technology startups led by diverse founders. So here I'm kind of understanding it's kind of like a sector agnostic fund, but investing in diverse founders, which is fine. Okay, I'm getting a bit of an idea of what they want to invest in. But if we go back to the thesis, there isn't that secret sauce element, which for us is kind of one of the most important things that we're going to look at. So here I'm looking at this thesis and I'm wondering, what makes this person uniquely qualified to invest in diverse founders? Do they run a community of diverse founders? Have they invested in diverse founders before? And if so, how successful were they in that? Are they kind of mentoring these founders and helping them kind of raise a follow-on funding? Like, what is it about this person that makes them uniquely qualified to go after this opportunity, right? There's a lot of and I actually love this fact that there's so many people looking to start funds to back diverse managers. And this is amazing. But from an LP's perspective, I'm only going to be, you know, letting someone who gives me confidence that they're the best person to go after this, to uh, for me to kind of invest in a fund like that. So here we have another example, and this one's a 4. So Pearson VC is launching a 10 million pre-seed venture fund. So 10 million reasonable fund size, pre-seed specific stage venture fund, Palo Alto, California, to back US-based health education and sustainability startups founded by Stanford affiliated entrepreneurs. So it's kind of like clear sector focus, just 3 words, kind of, right? Here, I mean, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's quite good. Founded by Stanford affiliate entrepreneurs with capital from and for the Stanford community, and GPU has advised 500 of its founders. So I know this person is really, he or she has advised 500 Stanford alumni community, which is exactly the type of startups that they're looking to back from this fund, right? So this gives me confidence that they're really plugged into the ecosystem. So I want to know more. I'm looking at this thesis and I'm like, yeah, I want to fund Stanford startups, and it seems like you're really well connected in this space. So I want to know more. So anyway, that would be a 4, right? What is missing for it to be a 5 is them telling me how successful they were advising these founders, right? What did you actually achieve? That would be the perfect thesis for me. So hopefully this gives you guys, a better kind of understanding at how we look at the thesis and evaluate thesis statements. So let's go back to the online application. We talked about network, the size of your network, your background, your thesis. I will stop here and say, by the way, that another kind of thing that we look at closely is how related your thesis is and aligned it is to your background, right? So if you're saying I'm starting a climate tech fund, I kind of want to see stuff in your background about climate tech and climate tech founders, for example. So make sure your thesis aligns with your background, or the other way around, make sure your background, you know, many of you have done many things, but make sure you filter what you tell us about your background to what is relevant for your thesis, right? So we talked about that. Let's talk about need, which was kind of that one of those final boxes in the application. Here we look at several things. The first one is your time commitment. So how much we ask a question in the application, which is how much time do you have to dedicate to your fund? And here we are looking for people who can commit at least 10 to 15 hours per week on a VC fund. Launching a VC fund is a lot of work. You need to put aside a lot of time because you're going to be talking to LPs, you're going to be developing the material for your fund. At the same time, you need to make sure you have a steady kind of flow of deal flow coming into the fund. So it's not really, I mean, you can start with 10 to 15 hours, but really, if you want to go full time and launch a proper venture capital fund, you have to make this your sole priority. A lot of the most successful fund managers have 60 plus hours to work on their funds, and really I don't know that, even if you don't start out full time, at some point, when you get towards the first close, you will need to go full time on this, right? Because limited partners are looking at this and they're like, I'm entrusting you with a very significant sum of money, so whatever that may be. And I kind of expect you to be working day in, day out to make me a return. Otherwise, why don't I just take the same pool of capital and put it to someone who will be kind of full-time managing this capital, right? So you're really looking at this from the perspective of the limited partner. So here we're looking for people who are at least able to dedicate kind of like 10 to 15 hours minimum. And if not, then we'll get in touch with you and be like, hey, like we don't think you have enough kind of time to commit to this. Once you have more time, please come back to us. So anyway, so that's neat. The other thing that we look at here is kind of really what is it that you're looking to get out of the program. So this may be a variety of things that you're looking for, but one thing that we see a lot is people saying, what I want to get out of the program is connections to limited partners. We see this a lot, and if we do see this, we mark this kind of the need part of the application won't get kind of more than a 2. You'll get 1 or you'll get a 2. The reason for that is because by design, we do not make introductions to LPs as part of the VC Lab program. There is no way that someone who doesn't know you is going to come in to your fund before first close, right? We kind of talked about this earlier. For you to start a VC fund, you need to have some sort of a network of potential limited partners who know you, who know your work, who you can kind of convince to be part of this because you have a strong thesis. You can't go to a broker. By the way, a lot of these kind of brokers that tell you they will put you in touch with LPs and they'll get a commission. A lot of them are kind of practicing this illegally. You need a broker dealer license in order to do this. But even if they do, there's no way that this person is going to be able to sell your fund on your behalf, right? LPs are investing in you as an individual, not your fund, because you don't have a fund. You don't have kind of anything to back up from a numbers perspective or kind of from a track record perspective why this is a good investment opportunity. Okay, so we don't make any introductions to limited partners. By design, you're here to learn how to raise capital for yourself. Okay, by the way, one thing that these institutional LPs look at when they're making a decision as to whether they will be investing in your fund, we're talking kind of fund 2, fund 3, right? Is how good you are at raising capital. And it's such a core part of your job as a VC. You need to know how to raise capital, and part of the program is us helping you understand how to raise capital and kind of strengthen that fundraising muscle, because it's something that limited partners will be assessing. They don't want to invest in a manager that will take, let's say, even if they commit a certain amount to your fund and you go out and you can't raise the rest of the fund and you're undersubscribed for the fund, you are losing all credibility from these institutional LPs. Okay. So, anyway, fundraising is something we help you do in the program, but there's no point in us introducing you to LPs. So don't put that. Here you may want strategic advice on how to start a VC fund. You may want to know what is the best way to identify limited partners in your network, or once you've identified these limited partners in the network, how do you have conversations that lead them to commit into the fund? What kind of meetings, or kind of how do you sell the fund to your network, right? These are the kind of things that we are hoping a good applicant may want to see, because that's the kind of things that we're going to be helping with, right? Or how to set up a due diligence folder, et cetera, et cetera. So this is need. And then lastly, we ask you to provide a video. So a video is kind of becoming more and more an optional part of your application. You don't necessarily need a video. We recently introduced interviews, and I'm going to kind of come back to interviews in a bit. But it's just for us to kind of see you in full motion. We're looking at these videos from the perspective of the LP. Make sure that you are showing up in a professional way, that you inspire confidence with your body language, with your demeanor, with your background. You're not in kind of like a messy, living room, for example. You want to kind of show up as you would show up to the LP. So, that, everyone, is the online application. These are kind of the core things that we're looking at, and we are scoring from 1 to 5, no 3s once again. Interview, it would be the second stage of the admissions process. Again, this is kind of a confirmatory stage, but most likely if you don't provide a video in your online application, we will kind of want to see you. So make sure you provide a video. This may kind of help you skip the interview stage. And here we're just kind of, again, looking at how professional you are and trying to go a little bit deeper in some of the stuff that you would have written in your online application. So that's the interview. It'll be 15 minutes max, by the way, everyone. It's not a huge time suck, and we're super flexible on when you can have it too. And then last but not least, the Mensarius Oath. Domenica, if we can put the link to the Mensarius Oath in the chat, that would be great. What we are all about as a company is making, access to venture capital more democratic and more transparent. We think that in order to solve a lot of this world's swear word problems, uh, we need very, that venture capital can basically help to do this. Venture capital investors are the people who make decisions as to whether something will come to be or will not come to be through their decisions on which founder, which startup ideas they decide to invest in. Okay. So you agreeing to make an investment is as important to you not agreeing to make an investment and declining an investment, because those are literally the products and the teams that will shape the future. Okay. And so we believe that in order to change the future, VC is kind of a solution that will help to get us there. And if more values driven and ethical individuals start VC funds, then we will have a more bright future. So the Mensarius Oath is an oath that everyone who joins the VC Lab community pledges to. And it kind of is a few statements that kind of show, or you're kind of pledging that you will be conducting yourself ethically in the finance space. Basically, that's what it is. And we want every individual who applies to the program, if you want to be part of the program, you need to pledge to the Mensarius Oath as well. Our interest here is to create a very values-aligned community and to work with people who actually want to create good in the world. So yeah, that is the final step of the application. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat or raise your hand. And yeah, guys, we are here to help. We are ourselves a values-driven and mission-driven company. We're trying to change the future. VC Lab is free, by the way. We do get other sources of revenue from other parts of the business. VC Lab is not one of them. So if you are interested in applying, or if you haven't applied already, Domenica, maybe we can put the link to Cohort 19 applications. We've just opened Cohort 19 applications today or yesterday, just this week anyway. And the early deadline is August 4th, 2025. If you do apply before the early deadline, you guys get early access to the community, and we already start to launch kind of pre-program sessions, webinars, and kind of events that you guys can start coming to. We're going to open up access to Slack for you guys as well. So, the program starts in September 20, the date right now is September 23rd, 2025. But if you do apply before the early deadline, you get access to a host of tools and resources for you to get a head start basically over the summer. So that is me. I'm going to pause here, everyone, for your questions, or if you want me to kind of look at your application and you're comfortable sharing with everyone, just volunteer in the chat. And what I'll do is I'll open your application for everyone to see. We will cut this part of the recording out, by the way. None of this information is going outside of this session. And I can kind of talk you guys through how we would look at scoring each element of your application. So with that, I will stop sharing screen right now. And I'll go through the chat. If anyone wants to get feedback on their application, please volunteer now in the chat because I want to prioritize this over kind of answering questions for the time that's left here. And we can go over by a little bit too, by the way. All right. Also, everyone, feel free to raise your hand and ask questions live. Okay. Christine Nady says, I applied a while ago. The online application says I'm a finalist. What does this mean? Does this mean that I'm shortlisted? I'm relatively new to VC industry, yet I'm receiving updates from GPs to help in raising their funds. Would this program be a good fit for me? So, Christine, that is a good question. If the portal says you're a finalist, you have not kind of completed your enrollment. So, and this is important for everyone. Once you kind of start an account with kind of to start an application, you will put in an email address. We will be in communication with you guys using this email address, and we'll be communicating with you the next step. So if you filled in an application, we will send you an email to invite you for the interview. So you need to and if you did an interview and you're accepted, we'll send you an email that it's now time to kind of pledge to the Mensarius oath. And once you've done that, we'll send you an email to be like, okay, you've confirmed your enrollment in the program. So make sure that you have to always kind of keep an eye out on your inbox, Christine and everyone here, for next steps. Unless you've received an email for us saying that you are confirmed and you're fully enrolled in the program, you're not fully enrolled in the program, you're missing one of these steps. The second part of your question is around receiving requests from GPs to help them raise their funds. Christine, do not engage in any such activity because most likely it is illegal for you to do that. You need a broker-dealer license in order to help anyone raise funds and kind of get commission from that. And you will be unsuccessful. It's going to be really hard for you to kind of do that, especially if the GPs are new funds, right? So please do not engage in such activity. It is illegal. The license is it's super expensive to get. It requires a lot of money. So, okay. Let's keep going through these. So Christine, we've done you. Krishna is asking you, how do you determine the top managers to come out of the program to be considered for your fund of funds? So Krishna, we are a performance-based program. So at various time stamps in the program, we review the manager's work and make decisions as to whether we think this person is actually on track to conduct the first close or not. And if not, we assume you require a little bit more time. And if you're not on the timeline of, this program, then we'll just invite you to reapply to a future program. We really want people who are kind of moving at the same pace here at VC Lab. So we'll be, taking the time at various kind of points to review your work and make these decisions. We look at various factors, but one of the most important factors is how many commitments you have from LPs, for example. So that's kind of like a main performance metric that we look at. We want to know that you're able to fundraise, right? Our fund of funds will not be investing in a company if they're the sole GP. No way. If they're the sole LP, sorry, no way. We want to make sure that you've gotten kind of a healthy amount of commitments, that you're able to conduct a first close through your existing first and second degree network. Then if you've conducted a first close, and this will happen, it depends. Some people will conduct the first close before the end of the program, some people shortly after, right? But that's kind of the window. So once you've conducted a first close, then we will be then we're a lot more interested, and we're like, okay, like let's talk, and you kind of enter the diligence process for a fund of funds. But there are kind of a few steps to take before that happens. Again, we will be having some sessions on Decile Capital, which is our fund of funds, and kind of how we look at deals. So Domenica, maybe this is a good opportunity to put a link here to all our events, our upcoming events. So guys, have a look at kind of what other events we have. We may have something on Decile Capital coming up too. Toot is asking, is there a cost for the program for accepted GPs? No, there's no cost to the program, Toot. There is kind of a track where you get one-to-one support as part of the program, and it's kind of like a concierge level service that you get for going through VC Lab, where you're not just kind of like part of this big cohort. You have your own kind of channels, you have one-to-one mentoring sessions on a regular basis throughout VC Lab, right? So that would be paid. And Domenica, we can put kind of this enrollment link in the chat if you want to know more about what that takes. But everything else is free, so completely free to be part of VC Lab. And hopefully that is clear. How many VCs are accepted into a cohort? So typically it would be north of 300 managers accepted into each one of the cohorts. What happens when there are two of you in the fund? So Matthias, what will happen is that you both want to submit applications. If you are part of the same fund, the system will kind of recognize that the fund name is the same and will merge you into kind of two applications of the same fund. And uh, how we look at that is we will look at who the stronger of the two managers are, and the stronger manager will make the decision as to whether the strong manager is strong enough to kind of get into the program, and the weaker manager will just kind of be accepted into the program with you. Okay. So yeah, we basically need one GP from every team to be strong enough to build a fund, and then the strong person can bring other GPs into the program, if that makes sense. Krishna, what are the major reasons why applicants are not able to complete the program? The biggest reason, Krishna, or the reasons, the first one is people realize how time intensive it is to raise a fund, and they're like, I don't have the time, or something happened in my life right now and I'm unable to commit this amount of time into the program. The second biggest reason, if you have the time, is that you're unable to fundraise. So your limited partner network is too small. So there's no one kind of in your network that's able or wants to invest in the fund that you're doing right now. Um, and or you're not pitching it correctly, or you're not really taking the advice, and your thesis is really bad, and so they're not converting right. There's all sorts of reasons why LPs may not want to invest in your fund. We help you kind of maximize your chances of getting commitments from LPs, but you need to be doing the work as well. So hopefully that answers your question. What about companies in growth stage? So yeah, if you're kind of a growth stage VC, this is not really the program for you. I mean, you can you could get into the program, but for a fund one, you'll have a smaller fund, so you kind of need to be looking at earlier stage. A lot of kind of the large funds of today, again, Lightspeed Capital, for example, one of the largest funds in the world. They started as a pre-seed fund, right? So you start small, and then with each fund, you work your way up to kind of larger and larger fund sizes, and also later stages. But it's really hard for you to kind of come into the market as a later stage VC as a fund one. First of all, it'll be hard for you to raise the capital, but then it's just going to be hard for you to get into these deals, right? So yeah, up to you whether you want to apply. It will be a lot easier for you to kind of start with a pre-seed or seed fund. All right. Grace, I see that you're asking for feedback on your thesis. So do you want to put that in the chat and I will give you feedback on that? There's also a question about Start Fund. So if you guys have heard about Start Fund and you want to know more, we're running an event about Start Fund. So Domenica, can you put the link to the Start Fund event in the chat so people can come to that? But yeah, everyone, Start Fund is a new time. We're kind of making it easier and easier for you guys to launch funds. So yeah, I might just put a full stop there and you can come to the event to find out more. All right. How can we discuss the VC Lab Accelerator versus Venture Institute? Yeah, so Mehmet, VC Lab is a program for you if you are currently launching a venture capital fund. So you're ready to kind of go out, talk to LPs, and start getting commitments from LPs. You're working towards the first close. Venture Institute is a learning program. So you're here to learn about venture capital and yeah, there's no kind of expectation for you to be launching a fund. Maybe you want to launch a fund in the future. Maybe you just want to work at a VC fund. Um, that would, kind of be a venture institute that fit. All right, I'll take one more question, everyone, and then we can wrap. So, Toot, what's happening during the program and what's the time required? We covered this. I sent some emails about my application for cohort 18, but I think I was late when I was put on Venture Institute 5, but I really wanted cohort 9, 18, 19 for the accelerator. So Mehmet, please, if you can, just reply to that email and say that you want to be in cohort 18, 19 versus Venture Institute, and you can have a discussion with our head of admissions to see if that would be possible. All right. Okay, Matthias, I'll do your question too. I had a follow-up question. I've been accepted into the upcoming Venture Institute cohort. My partner will be the stronger candidate. He is my senior at a deep tech VC. Will I still be able to apply even though I'm currently enrolled in Venture Institute? So yeah, Matthias, yeah, you should have your stronger candidate apply. You'd be kind of joining the applications for cohort 19. So yeah, get them to apply. You can still be enrolled in Venture Institute, that's fine. However, when VC Lab starts, you will see that there's a lot of work to be done on VC Lab, but I think the timelines may be not too overlapping. So you may be able to finish Venture Institute before you then get onto VC Lab. You can do both programs. So amazing, everyone. I will leave it at that. I think we covered a lot of the questions in the chat too. If you do have more questions though, once you apply, you'll start getting comps from us. You can reply to any kind of email that you receive from us and kind of ask questions if you still have some. We are here to help. We try to respond to every one of your emails, right? So yeah, thank you so much for being here with us today. And I hope to work with you soon at VC Lab. Thank you all so, so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are in the world. Goodbye.